Hi everyone, as promised we've got the little hanging basket card. So this is the one that we're going to be making. It's using a few different stamp sets that we've mixed together. Great if you want to sort of do the same card, but if you want to do it for summer as well, fantastic, because you can just change the little flowers. Obviously don't put the baubles in, put some more spring and summer in. So this will take you into the new year as well. So that's the one we're going to be making. We're going to be using festive fir cones, a couple of the vintage baubles in there just to make it that little bit more Christmassy. Winter Blooms, which is the lovely little Christmas set with the poinsettias in, and also bow baskets, and we're going to use the stone wall as well, which again all year round. So the first thing we're going to do is stamp our basket. So if you've watched me a few times now, you'll know that I always use two colours on my stamps if I'm doing them in colour rather than black and white, because this will just make them pop, give them a little bit more of a rounded look to them. So I'm going to go around with a first stamped in the bark, and then now what I'm going to do is use the pine cone, and we're just edging some of this stamp. So you'll see sort of in the middle of the stamp there is remaining just in bark. So that means that when we stamp it, it's going to give us a little bit of highlight to our basket. Now I'm going to stamp it off the edge of the card, so we're not actually going to see the hook. Okay, so make sure you walk your fingers all over, and there's our little basket. So the next thing we're going to do is start to add in our little flowers and our rubbing. So I'm going to do the rubbing first, and we'll do exactly the same thing with this one. So I'm going to put some red on the breast of the robin here, like that, and you'll see it's not very neat, it's going all over. But then what I'm going to do, I'm going to use the pine cone, so that was burgundy, and we're just going to use the pine cone ink just to run around the outside there, like that. So basically you're taking away whatever red that you don't want with the darker brown. Okay, and I'm going to stamp him in first, so he can go just about there. Okay, so next thing we'll do is start to add our little flowers. So I'm going to start with the biggest one first and get a couple of those in, because obviously it's quite big, so we don't want too many of those, and just let the ink run out on the stamp as you work. So once we've done that, I'm going to use the smaller one, and again just rotate your stamp as you work, so all your flowers and your leaves are going in different directions. But again, great for spring and summer, this design as well. So you could just leave the holly leaves out, for example, if that's what you wanted to do, and the little flowers you could use all year round. So let's put some little bits of holly in here. And we're going to add a couple of fir cones as well from the festive fir cones. But again, as long as you sort of let the ink run out on your stamp, you can actually go over the top of things, and because it's paler, it's going to look like it's behind. A couple of the bigger ones. This is from the festive fir cones. So just a couple of different holly leaves going in there as well. And then we're going to trail it down a little bit as well. So let's just take it down a little bit down there. And I'm going to add in some other little bits as well. So just some little fine touches now, just over the top, just to soften that off a little bit. Let's add in a couple of little fir cones as well. So let's go about here. And then maybe one about here. And just build that up as you're going along. So you see how easy this is. Okay, so let's just pop a couple of the little branches in as well. So we'll have these sort of coming down here. And again, these are designed just to sort of soften the whole image up. Just makes it really, really pretty. Also, I do like this set, it's very, very pretty. Okay, so there's our little basket. So the next thing we're going to do is add a couple of the little baubles. So what we're going to do is stencil around the outside of this. So I would suggest you sort of either give it a little blast with the heat gun, or just leave it to dry for a couple of minutes, so you've not got really, really wet inks on top of here when you stencil over the top of it. And I like to do it this way rather than sort of stencil the wall first, so you haven't got any dark areas that you have to sort of cover up. So I'd much sooner just stencil around it, because to be honest, it doesn't matter if it goes all the way up to the top or all the way to the stamps. It really doesn't matter that much. So we're going to take the fine liner and we're just going to attach these little baubles into this little design like that. Okay, now we're going to use a Chateau Grey. So really you want to be giving that a little bit of a dry beforehand, just so it's not quite so wet when you do your stenciling over the top. And we're just going to position our brick wall straight over the top of this like that. So we have used, if you've seen me do quite a few times, the Stix 2 removable adhesive tape runner, which is on the website. And then what we're going to do is take Chateau Grey. And then I'm just going to start to blend over the top. So keep it quite pale. And then where you come into your actual design here, just sort of be a little bit more careful. But if you've left it to dry, unlike me, this will be a lot easier. And again, it doesn't have to go behind absolutely everything, because the overall look, you know, when you just look at it, it's going to look like it's on the wall anyway. So just go sort of as close as you can and add a little bit of colour. Now I'm doing this a little bit quicker than I probably would, just so we can not bore you to death for 10 minutes while I just colour in bricks. Okay, so just in and out. Now you could, if you've seen me emboss with an embossing tool, you could take an embossing tool, rub on the back with a wax paper, and probably emboss a couple of these little bricks as well. So you wouldn't have to do all of them, but just do the odd one would look absolutely stunning. And then you could add snow on top of the little bricks that are sticking out as well. So there's quite a few things that you could actually do with this. And the wall is great for building up little scenes as well. Okay, so I'm not sure if we've gone over every single one of these, but you know, again, doesn't really matter. If you want to give it a little bit more dimension as well with those bricks, you can go back over it with your grey, but just sort of give them a little bit more colour just on one side than the other. And again, this will just give you a really nice dimensional look. Okay, so what I mean by that is just go back in and then just on every other one, just go in and just darken one side, because again, it'll just give it a little bit more dimension. Okay, so when we've got to this point, like I said, I'm not too worried if we've not done every single one, because you get the general idea. We can then take this off, and that reveals our little wall in the background. But what I like to do is just darken up these edges. So I'm just going to go around with a Chateau Grey and just soften all these edges up. Add a little bit more colour, so you've not got the really stark white coming through here as well. So it just softens the whole design. So anything that you see coming off there is just a little bit of glue residue that probably would have been better to be wiped off beforehand, but hey. There we go, and just over the top here. And you can see it still looks like we've actually stenciled on top of that wall, even though we've only sort of gone fairly close to it. So just blend this a little bit, because it just softens it. So we've not got a lot of that really, really bright white there. Okay. So now what we're going to do is add our little lines and things. So we need to go all the way around here. Now you don't have to, but I just think it sort of finishes this off nicely. So all the way around the outside. And again, I always do two, because if I go a bit wonky with one, you can just pull it back with the other. And it's not meant to be perfectly straight. So if you were to do ruled lines, to me it doesn't really quite work the same. It's lovely to have a little bit of natural lines around the outside. So we've already done our little bows there. So let's pop a little Christmas greeting in. So any of the Christmas greetings, it doesn't really matter which one. And of course you don't have to do black, I'm just doing this because it stands out. Okay, so let's pop this one in about here. And then all that's left to do then is just finish off with the little finishing touches. So I'm going to use a little bit of liquid pearls, So just in the centres here. And you can do some little berries. So on the ends of these little sort of twigs here, you can put little berries on. And it just is the finishing touches that really make it. And you'll see on the one that we did earlier, we've actually used some glossy accents as well on the little baubles. So you can do a little bit more than I've done there if you want to. My eyesight is shocking these days. Too much close work, I think. Okay, so a little bit of glossy accents on these baubles. So quite a dull look when you're doing glossy accents, actually. Especially if you want it to have that sort of domed look. So don't be frightened of giving it quite a dollop. And then if you want to, especially if you can emboss some of those little bricks, you can just sort of go around and just colour in some little sections with your glue pen where you might want to add a little bit of glitter. So just like that. And then because we've got the glossy accents on there as well, the glitter's going to stick to the glossy accents, so it'll give us sparkly baubles, but that's okay. We're all right with that. And there we have it. So there's our little card. They're always different, but that's absolutely fine, and it's part of the fun, actually. Okay, so I hope you like watching that. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.